Reflection. You see, life has a way of shaking you up. One moment, everything's calm. The next, you're standing in the middle of a storm wondering if you'll ever see sunlight again. Reflection. But let me tell you something. Don't you dare lose faith. Don't you dare think you've been forgotten, because the same God who opened doors before can open them again. Sometimes, reflection. You're not meant to understand the plan. You're meant to trust the process. The struggle you're in today is not punishment, it's preparation. God isn't ignoring you. Reflection, he's positioning you. Every delay, every disappointment, every heartbreak, it's all shaping you for something greater. When you feel like everything's falling apart, reflection, that's when heaven is often working the hardest. The enemy wants you to panic, but faith says, be still. Faith whispers, hold on. Faith declares, reflection, God's got this. There are moments when your mind will scream, it's over, but your spirit must answer, it's handled. You see, when you trust God, reflection, you stop trying to control the outcome. You stop worrying about the ow and start believing in the ooh, and stop pacing the floor at night. Stop replaying what went wrong. Reflection, start thanking God for what's about to go right. Because if he brought you this far, he didn't bring you here to leave you. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is not fighting, not crying, reflection, not complaining, but simply standing still and saying, Lord, I know you'll handle it. And so whatever's weighing you down tonight, release it. Whatever's scaring you, surrender it. Reflection, because the battle isn't yours, it's his. And when it's in God's hands, you can rest easy because he never loses. There are times when life will throw you into confusion. Reflection, you'll look around and see no logic in what's happening. You'll say to yourself, why me? Why now? Reflection, why this? But let me tell you something, there is no wasted pain when God is involved. Every moment of struggle, every sleepless night, reflection, every tear that hits your pillow, it's all part of a divine blueprint that you can't see yet. You might not understand it now, but one day, reflection, you'll look back and realize every piece fit perfectly into place. See, we live in a world that wants instant results. We want the blessing without the waiting, the success without the struggle, reflection, the peace without the process. But faith doesn't work that way. Faith is forged in the fire. It's built when you can't see the next step, but still choose to move forward. Reflection. Sometimes God hides the details on purpose, not to punish you, but to protect you. Because if he showed you everything right now, you might walk away too soon. Reflection. You might quit before the lesson is learned. So instead of asking, why is this happening? Start saying, God, what are you teaching me? Because the truth is reflection. He's shaping your patience, your character, your endurance. The same pressure that makes coal crack is the same pressure that turns it into a diamond. And you, my friend, are being refined. Reflection. That delay, that disappointment, it's not rejection, it's redirection. God is aligning things in your favor behind the scenes. The door that didn't open wasn't meant to. Reflection. The people who walked away had to because their part in your story was over. Trusting the process means believing that what feels like a setback is really a setup. Reflection. It's knowing that even in the silence, God is speaking. Even in the darkness, he's guiding. Even in your weakness, he's strengthening. You may not see the way, but he's already made it. Reflection. That's why you can walk through storms without losing your peace, because the one who allowed the storm is the same one who controls it. So when it doesn't make sense, don't give up. Reflection. Don't rush the plan. Keep walking, keep believing, keep standing, because God doesn't waste your waiting. He's not just preparing your blessing. He's preparing you for the blessing. Reflection. There will come a time when you pray and it seems like the heavens are silent. You'll look around and wonder if God forgot your name, if he's too busy for your pain. Reflection. You'll see others moving forward, doors opening for them while yours stay shut. And that's when doubt tries to creep in, whispering. Reflection. Maybe it's not meant for you. But hear this. Delay is not denial. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. God's timing is never off. He's not slow. Reflection. He's strategic. When God delays something, it's not because you're unworthy. It's because he's aligning the right time, the right place, and the right version of you. Reflection. Sometimes you're ready for the blessing, but the blessing isn't ready for you. Other times the blessing is ready, but you aren't prepared to carry it. Reflection. And God loves you too much to give you something that will crush you. He's not trying to make you wait to punish you. He's making you wait to protect you. Think about it. Reflection. Every delay you've experienced has taught you something. How to be patient, how to trust, how to listen, how to endure. Every season of waiting stripped away pride, fear, reflection, and dependence on people. You learn to depend only on him. Because if he gave you everything you wanted the moment you asked, your faith would stay small. But when he makes you wait, reflection, your roots grow deeper. You stop chasing outcomes and start chasing his will. Sometimes the waiting season is where you discover your true strength. When the world moves on without you, reflection, you learn that your validation doesn't come from movement. It comes from purpose. You start realizing that the time you thought was wasted was actually preparation. Reflection, you were being built silently for what's about to happen publicly. What God does in private always shows up in power later. Don't curse the delay. Reflection, don't let impatience talk you out of your destiny. The longer the wait, the greater the weight of glory on the other side. A quick blessing fades fast, reflection. But a blessing that comes through waiting stands the test of time. God's timing is not based on your calendar. It's based on your character. Reflection. He will release it when he knows you can handle it, when he knows it won't destroy you, when he knows you'll give him the glory instead of taking it for yourself. Reflection. So when it feels like life is on pause, don't panic, stay in faith. Keep doing what you're called to do. Keep showing up even when no one notices. Because one day, in the blink of an eye, reflection, everything will shift. The very thing you prayed for will show up, and you'll realize why it had to take so long. God wasn't denying you, he was developing you. Reflection. There comes a moment in everyone's life when you realize you've been trying to hold everything together with your own two hands, your plans, your relationships, your future, your peace. Reflection. You think if you just try harder, think smarter, or move faster, everything will fall into place. But the truth is, the more you try to control, the heavier life becomes. You start losing sleep, reflection, replaying every detail in your mind, worrying about what you can't change, and that's where God steps in. Not when you have it all figured out, but when you finally let go. Reflection. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means you're smart enough to know your limits and wise enough to trust God's power beyond them. When you keep trying to fix what's broken, reflection, you're telling God, I don't trust you with this. But when you release it, you're saying, Lord, I don't understand, reflection, but I trust you know what's best. That's when peace starts to replace panic. That's when strength replaces stress. Control is rooted in fear. Reflection, we hold on because we're afraid of what might happen if we don't. But faith is the opposite. It's surrender. It's saying, even if I can't see the outcome, reflection, I know who's in control of it. When you finally surrender control, you stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight. You stop carrying weights that were never yours to carry. Reflection. You stop trying to open doors that only God can unlock. Sometimes what's falling apart is actually falling into place. You think you're losing everything, reflection, but you're really being freed from what was limiting you. You think the plan failed, but it was God's way of clearing the path for something greater. Reflection, you think you need to make it happen, but all along, he just needed you to trust him. Because when you step back, God steps in. When you quit striving, he starts providing. Reflection, letting go of control doesn't make you weak, it makes you free. It means you're no longer chained to outcomes, to people's opinions, or to fear. Reflection, it means you've learned to walk by faith and not by sight. You stop chasing answers and start walking in peace. You begin to realize that God doesn't need your control. Reflection, he needs your cooperation. He doesn't need you to have the plan. He needs you to have the faith. So the next time you find yourself stressing, trying to force what isn't working, reflection, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and remember who's really in charge. You don't have to figure it all out today. You just have to trust that God already has. Reflection, the moment you release it into his hands, things begin to shift. Doors start to open, hearts begin to heal, and what once felt impossible suddenly becomes effortless. Reflection, because when you let go of control, you make room for God to move. There are moments when fear will stand right in front of you and try to convince you that faith doesn't work. Reflection, it'll whisper in your ear, you're not going to make it this time. It'll show you all the reasons to quit, all the times you failed, all the doors that didn't open. Reflection, fear feeds on your imagination. It paints pictures of defeat before the battle even begins. But faith speaks louder. Faith doesn't ignore fear, it overrules it. It says, reflection, I see what's against me, but I know who's for me. Faith turns panic into peace and pressure into power. When everything around you is shaking, faith becomes your anchor. Reflection, it's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about believing everything will be fine because God is still in control. Fear wants you to react. Faith teaches you to respond. Reflection, fear makes you rush. Faith tells you to wait. Fear blinds you to what's possible. Faith opens your eyes to what's promised. Reflection, you can't walk in fear and expect to see victory because fear looks at the problem, but faith looks at the promise. Sometimes you have to speak faith even when you don't feel it. Reflection. You have to open your mouth and declare, I will not be moved. I will not be broken. I will not be defeated. Because the words you speak have power. The more you speak fear, reflection, the more fear grows. But when you speak faith, mountains start to move. The storm doesn't always calm right away, but your spirit does. And that's where the real victory begins. Reflection. Faith is not loud, it's steady. It doesn't always roar. It often whispers in the quiet moments when you feel like giving up. It says, keep walking. It says, God is still here. It says, reflection. This too shall pass. And you start realizing that faith isn't about getting everything you want. It's about trusting that what you have is enough for where you are. Reflection. You stop measuring progress by how far you've gone and start measuring it by how much you've trusted. You can't always stop fear from knocking on your door. Reflection. But you can choose not to let it in. You can acknowledge the worry, the doubt, the pain, but still choose faith anyway. Faith doesn't need perfect circumstances to work. Reflection. It just needs a willing heart. It's a decision you make every day to keep believing even when your emotions don't agree. When fear says, you're done, faith says, reflection. God's not finished. When fear says, you're alone, faith says, right beside you. When fear says, you'll never recover, faith says, reflection. Watch what God can do. That's the power of faith. It changes the story before the ending is written. It reminds you that you don't need to see the whole staircase to take the next step. Reflection. All you need to do is keep walking, keep believing, keep speaking life until the light breaks through the darkness. Because every time faith speaks louder than fear, heaven moves on your behalf. Reflection. There comes a time when the best thing you can do is stop fighting, stop talking, and simply be still. Not because you're weak, not because you've given up. Reflection, but because you finally understand that your strength alone can't solve what only God can handle. You've tried everything, argued, worried, planned, prayed, and yet nothing seems to move. Reflection. That's when God whispers, be still, because sometimes your movement gets in the way of his miracle. When you learn to be still, you step out of panic and into presence. Reflection. You stop trying to figure everything out and start letting peace take over. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the most powerful thing, trusting completely. It's saying, reflection, God, I don't have the answers, but I know you do. I can't see the way, but I know you're leading. That kind of peace confuses the enemy because he expects you to crumble. Reflection, he expects you to scream, to break, to give up, but instead you stand calm, confident, and grounded in faith. Being still is an act of war against worry. Reflection, when you choose peace in the middle of chaos, you're declaring that the storm doesn't control you. The Creator does. You start realizing that stillness is not weakness. Reflection, it's divine confidence. It's the moment you stop chasing outcomes and start standing on promises. Reflection, you understand that your silence doesn't mean surrender. It means you trust the one fighting for you. When everything seems to be spinning out of control, reflection, stillness allows you to see what truly matters. You start hearing what your anxious heart was drowning out. You begin to notice the small signs of God's hand moving. The people he sends, reflection, the strength you find, the doors that quietly open. You start to understand that he was never late. You were just impatient. Because when you wait in stillness, God moves in power. Reflection, the world teaches you to hustle, to push, to grind until you make something happen. But heaven teaches you to rest, to pause, to let God make it happen. Reflection, the moment you stop forcing things is the moment his favor starts flowing. Stillness is not the absence of action. It's the presence of trust. Reflection, it's standing in peace while everything around you shakes. It's believing in victory before you see it. And in that quiet, something changes inside you. Reflection, you stop being driven by fear and start being led by faith. You begin to understand that you don't have to prove anything, fix everything, or fight everyone. Reflection, you just have to stay still long enough for God to show you that he's already handling what you've been worrying about. Reflection, because sometimes the greatest testimony isn't in what you do. It's in how you wait. And those who wait with peace always rise with power. Reflection. There's a freedom that comes when you finally understand that the battle you're fighting was never yours to begin with. You've been carrying weight that wasn't meant for your shoulders. Reflection. Trying to fix situations that only God can fix. Trying to change people who don't want to change. Trying to fight enemies you can't even see. And you wonder why you're tired. Reflection. Why your spirit feels heavy. Why your peace keeps slipping away. It's because you've been trying to fight a battle that belongs to God. Reflection. The moment you realize that truth is the moment everything starts to shift. When you hand the battle over to him, you don't lose control. You gain clarity. Reflection. You begin to see that God never asked you to fight with your hands. He asked you to fight with your faith. He doesn't need your strength. He needs your surrender. Reflection, because when you let him fight for you, he fights differently. He doesn't just deal with what's against you. He transforms what's within you. He builds your patience, your peace, reflection, and your trust. He turns your panic into power, your tears into testimony, your waiting into wisdom. So many times we exhaust ourselves trying to prove a point, trying to make people see our worth. Reflection, trying to get revenge, trying to be understood. But you don't need to fight for what God already promised you. You don't need to chase what he already chose for you. When God is your defender, reflection, he doesn't just silence your critics. He elevates you in front of them. You don't have to clap back when heaven is already speaking on your behalf. Reflection, you don't have to fight small battles when you're destined for a greater calling. The moment you realize the battle is God's, your entire posture changes. You stop worrying, reflection, because you know the outcome is already written. You stop reacting because you know the victory is already secured. You stop panicking, reflection, because you know the same God who brought you through the last storm will bring you through this one too. The same hand that protected you yesterday is still covering you today. Reflection, you don't have to see the way, you just have to stay in position. There's power in knowing when to step back. You don't have to respond to everything, defend yourself to everyone, reflection, or fix every situation. Sometimes the greatest strength is restraint. When you trust God with the battle, you start walking with quiet confidence. Reflection, you know that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Not because you're untouchable, but because you're covered. And that covering makes all the difference. Reflection, let God handle what's too heavy for you. Let him deal with the people, the problems, the pain. You just keep walking in obedience, keep standing in faith, keep moving with purpose. Reflection, because when the battle is in his hands, victory is guaranteed. It may not come when you expect it, and it may not look how you pictured it, but it will come. And when it does, reflection, you'll realize why he told you not to fight, not to stress, not to worry. Because he was already winning for you while you were learning to rest in him. So tonight, reflection, I want you to take a deep breath and let it go. Let go of the fear, the doubt, the control, the worry. You've carried it long enough. You've tried to fix it, change it, reflection, enforce it, but now it's time to release it. Because when you stop fighting for control, you make room for God to fight on your behalf. Every storm you've faced, reflection, every tear you've cried, every door that closed, it all led you here, to this moment, to this truth. You are not alone and you are not forgotten. God has been there in the silence, reflection, working behind the curtain, arranging everything according to his plan. So walk with peace, walk with power, walk with the quiet confidence of someone who knows their life is in divine hands. Reflection, the world may shake, but your faith will stand, because no matter what you face, one truth will never change. God will solve it. And when he does, when that breakthrough comes, reflection, when the story turns in your favor, you'll look back and say, now I see why I had to wait. Now I see why I had to trust. Now I see it was never falling apart. Reflection, it was always falling into place. So don't worry, my friend. Stand still, stay faithful. Keep believing, because your miracle is already in motion and God will solve it.